This is a Wild Games Production podcast.
Welcome to the D&D world.
Meet you by the art room door, in a circle on the hallway floor. I made up a new map last night. It's got a dragon and a wizard fight.
Hello everybody and welcome to Save or Die Side Adventure 20. We're on our 20th side adventure, and today it is me, Carl, and I am joined by
Courtney.
And we are going to talk about
North Texas RPGCON 2019.
We both got to go and we had a great time.
Yay!
So this will just be a short side adventure. We're not going to do a full episode recaps on cons, especially not cons that the entire cast of hosts were not at. But we will do this side adventure to talk about North Texas, just like we did one for Gary Con. We love North Texas. This was our third year going.
Yes, so we started off going to North Texas 3 years ago. It was a surprise gift for Carl to get to go to his first con. Yeah, and so it kind of started off, I was like, I am not going to make it awake this late at night to really typically for anything. I was a little worried I was going to be grumpy and irritable and tired and sleepy and all that kind of good stuff. But as most of you know, when you get involved in RPG, it's kind of like watching a good movie, and you lose track of time, and you don't really care how late it is. And it was a great time. And so now we just completed our third North Texas RPG Con and had just as much fun this year as years past, and already planning for next year.
So I'll tell this story, and it may get cut from the podcast. So this might end up on the cutting room floor. But yeah, we had decided not to go to North Texas RPG Con the first time we went, just because of financial situations, and decided we weren't going to go. I had said, we had thought about it, and I said, it's not that important. We can always go next year. And Courtney's family bought us tickets, and they're not gamers. They don't really know a lot about this gaming nonsense that we get up to, but that was just really endearing to me, and it's made North Texas special to me all the more because of it. And the other thing I want to say about North Texas is that I know about North Texas and decided to go to North Texas because of this program here that you're listening to now. It's something that has been shouted from the rooftops on this show, and that's something we'll continue to do because Courtney and I both love it, and hopefully we can get Crispy to go to one soon.
So we started off Thursday. Well, should I back up a little bit?
Well, that's true. Yeah, the whole North Texas event this year for us changed drastically because at the last minute, my dad decided he wanted to go. And so he was actually at our house Wednesday, and me and him were working on some RPG products. I have a small, and I mean very small, and I mean a very, very small company called Ordinary Human Games, and we were working on just some little zine-sized, mini zine-sized fantasy RPG called Wizards and Heroes that I hope to have up for download on Ordinary Human Games at drive-thru. And it's just a quick way to play. It's the way I play a old school D&D style game with kids where they can be anything they want to be, from robots to aliens to jelly beans to whatever they imagine to be. So it's a very loose-knit game master adjudication based system, but still has, I think, quite a bit of an old school role-playing game feel. So we worked on those Wednesday and got them all cut out and folded, and then Thursday morning we left for North Texas.
Yep, so we made the fairly quick 4.5 hour drive to Texas. and got ready for our first game of the con, which was Stefan Courtney's AD&D First Ed game, which is the highlight of my trip every year. I've actually managed to get in this game all 3 years in a row, and we'll try and do that every year as long as I can, as long as he's there, as long as I'm there, as long as I can figure out a way to get into the game, I'll get there. It is awesome. His Dwarven Forge scenery is just, you sit there in suspense as you wait to get to what he has mapped out for you, and it gets unveiled, and just to see what he's thought of and how he's thought to use the scenery in your game is always awesome every year, and the highlight of my con every year.
Yeah, Stefan's a fantastic dungeon master. I have been able to game with him twice at North Texas due to just the high demand for Stefan Picorni games. I wasn't able to get into his game our second year, but I still stayed and watched the whole time. He's just a fantastic game master to watch run the game. And I got to play this year. I played a character that I've been playing lately, Elder Jan, the wizard, and that was very exciting to me because he's so funny to play because he's such a trope. He's just a stereotypical old confused wizard, but he's a ton of fun to play.
And I did not die, but I did come out, thankfully, to two of my teammates drug me out as I was bound up in a spider web. So I don't know how much longer I would have made it.
but technically still alive.
Nonetheless, still alive.
And then Friday, we got to play in a Swords and Wizardry Mithras Tower game. We jump in on these. These are a thing at North Texas, the Mithras Tower games, where it's kind of this ongoing Swords and Wizardry campaign, and they're disjointed but connected, and you can end up with rather large groups as everybody jumps in them. And we've tended to select them because we just like the Swords and Wizardry system, but we never carry over our characters, so we always end up making new characters for whatever Mithras Tower session we end up in, because we forget to bring our character sheets back or keep them from last year.
Yeah, so this game was DM'd by Douglas Zielsdorf. I'm pretty sure that's... you can fact check that with him, but I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
It's French.
French?
It's French.
With an A?
Yeah. Zielsdorf is French with an A.
So we were continuing a quest that had happened earlier that day, or maybe the previous day. I'm not sure when they started it. And we were to return this phylactery to the Golden Dracolich. And if we did that successfully, we were trusting that the Dracolich was going to give us its hoard, which I don't know that it's ever a good idea to trust a Dracolich, but we decided that this was going to work out well for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's a good Dracolich, and I'm totally fine with that. I have good liches in my games, so that's fine. I can't judge. I have Rich the Lich, so he's good as far as everybody knows.
So far, so good.
Yeah, it was awesome to get to game with Douglas. I've known him online and haven't got to game with him yet, so it was fantastic. Get to play with him, watch him be a dungeon master, and that's just something I love to do. And I think you can't be a good dungeon master without every once in a while sitting on the other side of the dungeon master screen and playing a few games. So it's always good to get to play and see how other people run the games and how they handle situations and learn from it. After that, I ran one of two Discos and Dragons games. I ran one Friday, and I ran another one the next day on Saturday. But the first one I ran, we stayed mostly in the upper portion of the world of Avalon Hill's Outdoor Survival, or AHOS, as I like to call it. And it is I've talked about it on the show a couple times before. You probably know what it is, but it's a overland outdoor survival map populated with Monopoly buildings to represent dungeons and towns. And they went to a few dungeons and ended up combating a giant and kind of risking it all on this giant if they could get the treasure to free good King Gary. They had to stop the giant and get its treasure to pay the ransom. And they did. They did. They had some casualty, but other than that, everything seemed to work out fine.
We played it pretty safe through the whole game. Came close to not saving King Gary, but luckily at the very end, we did fight the big dragon. I mean, not dragon, goodness, the big giant, and were successful and saved good King Gary in the end. I assume you don't want me to say anything about like the
encounter itself.
Yeah.
No spoilers, Save or Die listeners. If you want to learn about the giant and how or how not you may be able to beat him, play in my games. I do want to mention it was great to get to play with Chris Holmes again. He jumped into that Discos and Dragons game and played once more as a adventurer traveling over the world of Ahas, and that was just great. And the next day, we got to game with Chris Holmes again as he ran a combat system he had been working on under the conceit of kind of like a superhero game. We were playing people at a costume party that eventually became the people they were dressed as. So I ended up being Raphael, the Ninja Turtle, and got some powers based on that, and just to test out this combat system he's been working on, which was interesting. It was a roll under mechanic where you took damage to your stats, and I think he's got something there. So hopefully he'll work more on that, and we'll see more from him on that system.
It was a lot of fun to play. It was very interesting where you decided where to take your damage from. I guess the more you play it, the more you'll learn whether that's a good or a bad decision on what you decided to take, which stat you decided to take your damage from. Another thing that was really cool was, at least in this scenario, at the beginning, you still remembered what you knew as, I guess, yourself dressed in the costume, and also what you knew as the character. So, like, I was Wonder Woman. At the beginning of the game, I still knew any, like, pop culture references that I would know as Courtney, which unfortunately is not a whole lot because I have a bad memory. But I also knew things that I would know as if I was Wonder Woman. Then, as we kept going and going and going and going and got deeper into the game, I lost my memory as Courtney. So if by chance I knew something about what we were doing, I was supposed to act as if I didn't and only rely on what Wonder Woman would know. So that was a very interesting concept as well. And I don't know that would work overall for the system, but for this encounter we were playing, it was an interesting concept, especially seeing how we were at a costume party and then transformed into the character. So the other cool thing that at least I thought it was really cool, I think everybody did, was Chris took the time to make these cool little handcrafted superhero figures. They were awesome, I thought.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, it was he put his art out there on the table, and they were just fantastic. And the most old school thing you can do is make your own figures out of what you can and what you have, and I loved it.
And we actually ran out of time to get to like the last big chunk of section that he had planned for us, and I'm kind of bummed that we didn't have time to finish it because I'm interested to see what that room would have been like and what stats I'd chose to take away from, if that would have affected the outcome of the room. So Saturday night, my last official game of the con that I was signed up for was a game system that Jared Nielsen is working on. He's with World of Game Design and a couple other companies.
He does a lot of stuff. It's hard. I mean, World of Game Design is like the tree. He's helped out a lot at Arkansas RPGCon. We think Jared is great. But yeah, World of Game Design I think is the main one. He does
he does
a lot
Dice
of
Fanatics too.
Dice Fanatics and Myth Horde, and there's too much to list. He's a busy guy, I think.
Yeah, so check out his stuff. But I was playing in a new system that he's working on, and it's Evolve RPG. and it was pretty different from anything I've ever played in, as far as the style of play as well. But I really enjoyed it. Anyways, you get tokens, and then you get to apply them to different stat attributes, like physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, those kind of things. And so you help develop your player by the things your player does, but by the things your character does. That's how you help create it and develop it into who they are. So it has a very fast startup from when the time you sit down to the time you start playing, because there's not like stats to roll up. Because as you play and what your character does and what different areas you earn, you build your character that way based on your character's experiences and kind of create their story that way. So it allows you to jump right into gameplay from the beginning. I've never gamed with Jerry before, but he did a great job at giving everybody a turn and keeping the story going and keeping up with what all was going on, because it seemed a little crazy at first to me, mainly because I was also learning the system. But he did a great job with the storyline and letting people try things that they wanted, even if it didn't really make sense. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a little different than some of the fantasy RPGs I played before, but it was still a lot of fun, and it was really cool to get to try something new.
While she was playing in Jared's game, I ran a second Discos and Dragons game, and this was the last game for the con for me, Saturday night. And I think my first Discos and Dragons game, I was kind of low energy, and that was not the case for my second one. I was all over the place and crazy and theatrical, as I usually am when I Dungeon Master games. And I also got the honor to game with Dizzy from the Wild Games Productions Discord server, which was just fantastic. Dizzy and his wife joined us for that game, and they were great to play with, and I had a great time running that game. They didn't go to the Giant this time. They bypassed that entirely, but still delved some dungeons. They were a little less cautious than the first group and therefore had more casualties. But the way the game runs is you just pull a new character sheet and we keep going. So it was great fun running it twice and kind of comparing and contrasting the two times to each other. And it, helped me learn how to run it better in the future, which I will continue to do. And during my Saturday night game, just like at GaryCon, there was a tower on the board that was the Tower of ZENOPUS. And Zach of the ZENOPUS archives happened to be near my table when they decided to go there. So I walked up to him and asked if he wanted to play ZENOPUS just for a little bit during my game. And he obliged my obnoxious and crazy request and came over and kind of co-DM'd for a little bit as ZENOPUS during that game, which was just fantastic fun for me. So thank you, Zach, for agreeing to my somewhat weird request to come in and roleplay during my convention game. The last thing I wanted to say about my experience in North Texas is for everyone that came up to me and talked to me about the podcast and how much they've enjoyed it and how much they like the show. I don't want to say people's names on here because I'll either forget someone or maybe mention someone's name that didn't want to be mentioned on the show, which I didn't ask anybody their thoughts on that. So, but to everybody that did come up to me and say that they enjoyed the show, or that they like what we're doing, it just means the world to me. Thank you so much for the feedback, and thank you for listening and continuing to listen to Save or Die.
Yes, we definitely appreciate it. We love meeting everybody. Definitely at any con we're at, just say, hey, like the show. Hey, I guess if you don't like the show, you can tell us that too.
It's true.
We might cry. No. I'm just kidding. We love meeting everybody. That's awesome. It's tons of fun, and it's great to see who's out there listening. Like Carl said, his dad came to North Texas this year for the first time, and as what I think happens to most people that come to North Texas RPGCon, if you can get them there once, they're hooked because it's a great environment, a great community of people, and a whole lot of fun. So I'm thinking he'll be back hopefully next year.
Yeah, we're planning a high old takeover. All of us are coming over and taking over the con. You're going to have a slew of us next year. This is the tip of the iceberg, North Texas. You've been warned. We're all just as weird as I am.
Don't kid. It'll be a slow evolution.
That's probably true.
But eventually eventually they'll all be there.
Well, I guess the last thing is just to say thanks to Mike and Doug for North Texas, and we'll see you next year.
Peace out, Cub Scouts.
The Save or Die podcast is a production of Wild Games Production, and it's produced for entertainment purposes only. The music used in the intro and outro is by Tripod and used with permission. Be sure to visit the Save or Die crew at saveordie.info for more information. If you'd like to support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/WGP.
Life for me, that's nothing new. It was always that way. Change all the rules to the game from what they were.